Good evening and welcome to the League of Women Voters Forum featuring the candidates running for the Marquette City Commission in the general election on Tuesday, November 3rd. There are 6 candidates on the ballot vying for 3 seats. The 3 candidates receiving the most votes will become Marquette City Commissioners. The 6 candidates are Margaret Brum, Jessica Hanley, Cody Mayer, Mike Plord, Paul Schlegel, and Fred Stonehouse. I am Jo Foley, moderator for this evening, a member of the League of Women Voters, and a resident of Marquette County. The Marquette City Commissioners serve 3-year terms and may not serve more than 2 consecutive terms in office. The Commission represents the citizens of Marquette. They are charged with governing the city. They pass ordinances and establish budgets and policies affecting Marquette residents. The City Commission has the power to hire the city manager and city attorney and to appoint citizens to serve on numerous advisory boards and commissions. The League of Women Voters of Marquette County is sponsoring this forum. We are also celebrating the 100th anniversary of the formation of the League. For these 100 years, the League has engaged and educated voters through candidate forums, voter registration drives, and voter guides. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization established to encourage citizen participation in government. It never supports or opposes any political party or candidate. We offer you this opportunity to become acquainted with the candidates and their views in order to promote an informed vote on Election Day, November 3rd. And we have rules. So the format for this evening has been established by the League of Women Voters of Marquette County. These are the rules. Each candidate will have 1 minute for an opening statement, 1 minute for each question, and 2 minutes for a closing statement. At a pre-forum briefing, the candidates' names were drawn to determine the order in which they will make opening statements and answer the questions. The candidates will be answering written questions submitted previously by Marquette County voters. The questions may be combined or reworded for clarity or to avoid redundancy. Each candidate will have the opportunity to respond to each of the questions asked. Our timer will hold up a 15-second warning sign and then a stop sign at the end of 1 minute. I will then move the question to the next candidate. Candidates are asked to respond only to the questions asked by the moderator. Active debate with other candidates is not allowed. Views expressed or candidate statements provided in this forum are those of the candidates, and the League takes no responsibility for them. No campaign clothing, buttons, or signage are permitted during the forum. This forum will be conducted on Zoom without a live audience and will be recorded and posted to our local League Facebook page and website. The League will seek other nonpartisan and appropriate venues to share the recording or links to the recording to allow for additional viewing of the forum. Still photos may appear on the League's website and Facebook page. Candidates are not allowed to use audio, video, or still photos from the forum in or for campaign material or advertising. Okay, now the forum. So we welcome this evening's candidates: Margaret Brum, Jessica Hanley, Cody Mayer, Mike Plord, Paul Schlegel, and Fred Stonehouse. As determined previously, we will begin with opening statements, starting with candidate Stonehouse. You have the floor for 1 minute.
I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this event. Surely an informed electorate is critical to our democracy. My name is Fred Stonehouse. I'm running for re-election. I was previously have served as mayor and mayor pro tem on this current commission. I feel the city is in the midst of the most difficult period of the last 50 years. The COVID-19 pandemic certainly the loss of the We Electric plant on Presque Isle. It's $3 million a year that it was contributing to the city budget, plus the good jobs involved with it. We have a change in work environment in the city going on, where we now are moving to a very high-tech, education-heavy job status. We have a critical need for high-skill development. We have a critical need for family-sustaining economic development and jobs. And all of them become major challenges that we have to deal with. I do not represent any particular group or constituency. I do my best to represent everybody.
That is the end of time. Thank you. Candidate Ford, you now have the floor for 1 minute.
And just like candidate Stonehouse mentioned, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for holding this forum. This is a fantastic opportunity to get to see what and hear what the candidates have in mind, what they think about the city, what they think about the job as city commissioner. And there's very few opportunities to do this. And I really enjoy these kind of forums because I get to see and get to hear what other people think. And I'm a person who believes that good ideas can come from anywhere. And that's why one of my strongest points is as a listener. I love it when people stop me on the sidewalk. I love it when people stop me in the stores. And that happens to commissioners all the time. And people feel like they're comfortable telling me what's on their mind. That's a very, very good thing. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to take part in this forum.
Thank you. Candidate Brum, you now have the floor for 1 minute.
Hello, my name is Margaret Brum, and I'm thanking the League of Women Voters because this is a fantastic way to reach as many people as possible in timely fashion. I just got my absentee ballot in the mail today, and it's a good opportunity to see and hear the people before you mark your ballots. Why you should mark your ballot for me is they say you should dress for the job that you want. For the past 3 years, I've been attending all the city commission meetings. I'm on 2 city committees, the Wastewater Advisory Board and the Local Development Finance Authority. So we get into the nitty gritty of what goes into the lake and what comes out of the lake. And we also deal with the future of Marquette, which is in development of businesses that can locate here and be well here. So the reason you should listen to me is I'm born and raised here, and I've got a lot of great ideas about how moving the city forward into the next century. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Candidate Hanley, you now have the floor for 1 minute.
Thank you. I would also like to start by thanking the League of Women Voters, not only for hosting this forum, but for all that you do to inform and educate voters. My name is Jessica Hanley. I am originally from the Houghton area, but I moved to Marquette in 2004 for college. And that's when I fell in love with Marquette. When we got married, my husband and I decided that Marquette was the place we had to be to live and where we wanted to raise our family. And after I had my child, I realized that I want my son to have the option to choose Marquette when he grows up to live here as well, and not to have to sacrifice a career to do it. When it came to jobs, my husband and I did whatever it took to make money so that we could live here. Soon we found some decent jobs, but they weren't what we expected for our careers. And I want to help change that with my son's generation. I want to help make Marquette a city that he can live in and other people can live in, not just retire to. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Mayor, you now have the floor for 1 minute.
Thank you. And I would also like to thank the League of Women Voters for putting this forum on. And I think it's great that you guys are doing this. So my name is Cody Mayer. Serving others is at the core of who I am. I've served in the Michigan Army National Guard for almost 6 years now. I currently hold the rank of sergeant. While studying at my alma mater, Northern Michigan University, I earned a bachelor's in public administration, and I served 2 terms as the student body president. I also serve as the vice chair of the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, and I'm on one of the board of directors for one of our local small businesses. If given the opportunity to serve as one of Marquette's next city commissioners, I will focus on the issues that matter to our community, issues like increasing affordable and middle-income housing, protecting our lakeshore, trails, woodlands, and wetlands, supporting workers, their families, our small businesses. I want my daughter to grow up in the community I fell in love with, and make Marquette a great place to live, work, and raise a family for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Schlegel, you now have the floor for 1 minute.
Thank you, League of Women Voters, for this opportunity. My name is Paul Schlegel. I grew up in Menominee, Michigan, a couple hours south of here. In 1990, I came to Marquette, where I found my schooling, where I was able to achieve a bachelor's in public relations and political science. At the same time of falling in love with the community, I met a girl, fell in love with her, and the rest is history. I've got a 28-year-old stepdaughter, Courtney, a junior at Marquette Senior High School, Abigail, and I've got a lot of reasons for being vested in this community. My family always said, if you're going to be a part of a community, you get involved in it, and we did. So I spent a lot of time in advisory roles on the Prescott Advisory Committee for 6 years, BZA for 1.5 years, and 6 years almost on the Planning Commission before I was able to be appointed to the position that was held by former Mayor Tom Baldini. I've got a lot of great things to say, so I'm looking forward to tonight.
Thank you. That concludes the opening statements. We will now proceed into the question segment. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to each question. We will begin with candidate Plord. Here is the first question. Describe the skills and experience that make you qualified for the office of City Commissioner and explain your reason for running.
I'm one of the 3 candidates in this forum that actually have commission experience. I served with distinction, if I might say, and I say that because other people have told me that, from 2015 to 2018. I know how the city operates. I know how the budget works. I know who does what, when, where. I have a good working relationship with everybody in the city and a very good working relationship with people on the committee or on the commission. In fact, I was one of the people that helped to select Paul Schlegel when he replaced Tom Baldini, as a matter of fact. He had a stellar career with the Planning Commission. Besides, he's a great candidate. I'm a great candidate as well. I make good decisions. As I said, I've got the experience. One thing I do bring to the commission is a resiliency. I can handle a lot of the pressure. And there's a tremendous amount of pressure because no matter what you do, you're not going to please everybody. It's just not going to happen. But I like to hear what people have to say. And if they're not pleased, that works for me too.
Thank you. Candidate Brum, the question goes to you.
What skills and abilities do I have that qualify me for the position? I have a habit of going around the city and taking videos of different aspects of the city, posting those videos, and I've gotten a lot of comments and feedback and an enormous amount of questions. And those questions have led me to an interest in the city government. As I mentioned, I've attended all of the city commission meetings for the past 3 years. I've also invested time and effort in 2 different committees, one on the local wastewater advisory board, where my background as a chemical engineer is invaluable. The other one on the local development finance authority, which finances events at NNU in the smart zone, where my background as a patent attorney also has a good fit. In terms of the skill set I bring to the table, I read everything that's put in front of me. I listen to whatever people say to me. Resiliency, I was working in construction when I was 15. I'm used to having people demand a lot of me and deliver a lot of work product for what they demand. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Hanley, the question goes to you.
Thank you. I'm not the typical candidate that runs for office here. I don't have the amazing pedigree with a bunch of boards. What I do have is a vested interest in making sure that this city becomes the community that I love for long after I'm here. I want my son to live here and his family to live here. I help run a small business here in town, a restaurant that's a very successful business. And I know what the problems that these small businesses are facing here in town, and I know how to fix them, and I want to help do that. My entire agenda really is in line that makes sure that every resident of the city can feel heard on the city commission. I find that a lot of times you get people in office that think that they know everything. I can tell you honestly, I will not know everything, but I will work to find the answers to things and when I don't know it, I will go to the people that do know it and find out what they say. So thank you.
you. Candidate Mayor, the question goes to you.
Thank you. As I stated earlier, I have a bachelor's degree in public administration. I'm currently pursuing my master's in public policy. I also serve on one of the board of directors for one of our small businesses here in town. I think having that kind of background, especially given COVID and the devastation that has caused on our small businesses, will be vital moving forward. But also the other areas of public service I've been in, whether it's Brownfield or president of ASNMU, I've always been one to approach things in a pragmatic manner and find cooperation and prevent division, instead work for increased cooperation. You know, I come from a working class family. I'm 23 years old. I am a husband, I'm a father. I know the struggle of finding a place to live in the city. I know the struggle of finding good paying jobs in the city. And I think all those aspects are going to be very important moving forward to consider. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Schlegel, the question goes to you.
Thank you. You know, I applaud these younger guys for putting their hat in the ring, because it's a very ambitious task. And the reason that I spent 15 years kind of leading up to this point in the advisory roles is because I didn't know enough to feel confident, and I really applaud you guys for doing that. But so I went into the Planning Commission and the Presque Isle and the BZA because I talked with some of the previous leaders, and I said, you know, how can I figure out what I need to do in order to hopefully someday serve as a commissioner? So that's why I took that path, and I really am fortunate to have had the time to do it. I'm fortunate to have had the leadership ahead of me and those former mayors, commissioners, representatives to give me that advice, and I'm very thankful for it. It's with that confidence and with that experience that I know that I can handle the situations that come up with the city of Marquette, and I really look forward to hearing from all of the constituents as well. And I'm very confident in my abilities. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Stonehouse, the question goes to you.
I'm running because I think I'm uniquely qualified to do so. My record of public service is an open book. Northern graduate, retired U.S. Army, retired as a Corps of Engineer officer, 9 years previously on the City Commission, sometime as mayor, sometime as Mayor Pro Tem, chair of the Harbor Committee, chair of various ad hoc committees the City assembled to study different projects. 3 years on the Michigan Ports Collaborative, which is a state appointment, vice chair for that for policy. And that I do not represent any particular group or constituency. I do my very best to represent everybody. And that takes an awful lot of work, but the commission deserves it. And there's much to be said for somebody who has been there, seen it, and understands how we can move forward from that position. So for those reasons, I think I'm well qualified. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be going to the next question, and it will be going to candidate Brum. Here's the question. What are the 2 highest priority issues that Marquette should address, and what actions would you take as commissioner regarding each of these? Candidate Brum.
The 2 highest priority issues that Marquette needs to address, number 1 is the safety of the community in the time of the COVID virus, and number 2 is the continuity of the functionality and accessibility of the lakeshore. Number 1, the COVID virus is not going away. Even if they had a vaccine tomorrow, by the time it got to Marquette, it would be the middle of next year. Therefore, things need to be monitored, new cases, outbreaks. I think Northern's doing a fantastic job with testing. I would increase the number of testing sites, and I would make it routine that people got tested once a month, even with or without symptoms, just to make sure they were on the track to keep going. Also, the commission has to stand firm when people want to have large gatherings, like they did this past summer against that gentleman who wanted to have a gathering at the Lower Harbor. As for the lakeshore, I'm running on the slogan, she'll clean up the lakeshore. Physically, the lakeshore needs attention. Thank you.
Thank you. The question goes to candidate Hanley.
Thank you. I think the 2 highest priority issues, number 1 being housing affordability in the city. This rent has highly outpaced the wages that we are getting in the city right now, and it is causing a lot of students, a lot of people, seniors, general population to have to choose to live elsewhere simply because of affordability. And it's a lack of middle income housing, which there's not a lot of want to build that housing. There's not a lot of money to be made in it. So we have to find ways to encourage and initiate building, whether it's losing zoning or loosening zoning so we can have more duplexes, having more medium density areas, things like that. And the second thing, I'm going to second what candidate Brum said, but in a different way. I think it's more how this COVID-19 is going to affect the small businesses in the area. I think over the next 6 months, we're going to see a lot more small businesses who've held on through now close down because they lost all of their reserves that they had before for the summer and didn't make the extra money that they normally do due to being closed down or halfway closed down. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Mayor, the question goes to you.
Thank you. I would say the top two biggest priorities moving forward is one, affordable and middle income housing, and two, economic recovery. The first, we need to be able to support our small businesses and give them the tools and the flexibility they need to be able to recover from this pandemic. Whether that be increasing mixed use zoning, allowing more outdoor seating as a permanent aspect, which the commission temporarily allowed for due to the 50% capacity restrictions put in by the governor, to making a entrepreneur's dashboard on city website for people to figure out how to start up a business in the city. We also need to look at how do we improve affordable housing. 45% of Marquette residents are either in poverty or unable to afford a basic housing budget. Not to mention 1 in 3 of Marquette residents are cost burdened, meaning they pay over 30% in their housing expenses. We need to increase medium density, allow for more duplexes and triplexes, and increase housing overall. Thank you.
Thank you. The question goes to candidate Schlegel now.
Thank you. I have to stick with some of the other statements there, the health, safety, and well-being of our community during COVID. This is one of those things that when I signed up, I never imagined we'd be dealing with it. It's been a very real situation to be on the ground floor running, dealing with a lot of the inner workings of the city, whether it's in city employees or the residents. It's just all been very overwhelming, quite honestly, but we're doing a good job with it. And I think that that's certainly one of the things that's on the forefront of my, if I was going to say I had an agenda, it's got to be right there. The other thing is, for me, it's infrastructure. You know, we've been dealing with some larger rain events, larger weather events that are taking its toll on other communities, and I want to make sure that we're not going to be part of that group of people that are sitting there wondering why we weren't taking care of our infrastructure for such a long time.
Thank you. The question goes to candidate Stonehouse.
Thank you. The two biggest issues I see, number one is COVID-19, and that is obviously overwhelming all of us. We had 151 people, I think, in this Upper Peninsula today test positive. 8 of those were in Marquette. We're doing a little bit better, but that is going to be with us for a long time to see, whether it's a matter of a year or 2 years or 3 years. We've got to deal with it. We're doing it an effective way now. We got to have to be more effective in what we're doing with it. And we obviously do that in cooperation with Northern Michigan University, our county health department, and our partners in the governor's office. We have to approach this thing as a team, not as individuals. My next point would be solid economic development, because if we have solid economic development and we direct some of that towards dealing with the businesses that are in trouble because of COVID, that then becomes critically important and a methodology to approach it and to help solve those problems. Thank you.
Thank you. The question goes to candidate Plord.
Yeah, being last is a big advantage in a particular question, and being able to say that COVID-19 is a huge issue, I agree with all of that. I've followed what the city has done. I've followed what the state has done. The UP in the last 2 months the cases have gone up exponentially, and we've got to find a way to deal with that. And we have to be able to deal with it proactively, but we have to deal with it firmly to keep cases down. We cannot allow our hospital to become way overused and way too extended. That being said, I also agree with Commissioner Stonehouse when he says economic development is huge. I'm on record already on the City Commission for supporting economic development, and I'm going to continue to do that. And in my mind, the site of the We Energy plant and the site of the Shiras energy plant are going to be two very, very big subjects to deal with fairly soon, certainly next year.
Okay, we go to the next question now, and the question will be going to candidate Hanley first. The question is, how would you ensure wise development of our lakeshore? Candidate Hanley.
Awesome. I do like this question. Our lakeshore is one of the most important parts of Marquette, if everyone knows that. One of the big things that I see is we obviously have multiple developments that are going up over the next couple of years that have already been decided that there's nothing I can do about. But what I can say is that as a commissioner, I will not support any more building on the lake side of Lakeshore Drive. And that includes on the newly moved Lakeshore Drive, where we have the new land open there. I think that we should use that as a conservation. I think we should put a conservation easement on it and protect it and use it for non-motorized park, for conservation use, for people to go to, instead of having another building over there. I think it will be a good use of that land and allow people to enjoy the lakeshore just that much more. Thank you.
Thank you. The question goes to candidate Mayor.
Thank you. You know, being Native American, there's this old philosophy, it's called the 7-generation philosophy, which essentially means leaving the generations, 7 generations down from you with the same sort of environment that you have now. I also believe that we should have on the lakeshore side of Lakeshore Boulevard to also put that into a conservation easement to protect and preserve that for the long run. As one of the other candidates stated, you know, there's already been a lot of developments approved for the lakeshore, and I can't do anything about that now. But what I can do is protect what's left of our lakeshore and keep it for generations to enjoy. Thank you.
The question goes to candidate Schlegel.
Thank you. I think we're very fortunate that our previous leaders in the community pretty much took care of this issue in many ways for us by saying, you know, we're not going to be developing anything on the lake side of the bike trail that goes throughout Marquette. And I believe we've got about 7 miles of accessible lake access, excuse me. And that's just unheard of. So one of the reasons that the plan for the new lakeshore move has been moved back in a way that it was, and there's a bike path associated with that, is to keep that as accessible as possible. There won't be any building over there, I guarantee that. And I think that that's something, I'm glad that you guys are on board with it, because it's always been a big issue. And I'm fortunate that we're able to respect our leaders from the past as we move forward into the future. And our leadership is going to be how we develop those other portions of land on the other side of the road if we decide to do that.
Thank you. Question goes to candidate Stonehouse.
To my knowledge, and I consider this to be a factual statement, there is no planned development on the other side of Lakeshore at all. That is finished with the Hampton Hotel rather, and the Marquette One place. So what you're seeing that's happening up at the Cliff Stow area is literally, if you want to make it a conservation easement, nothing would prevent you from so doing that. But I would point out that 90% of the lakeshore in the city of Marquette is publicly accessible. That is 80% of the entire publicly accessible lakeshore in the county. That's how good of a job our forefathers, people on that commission, have previously done. But certainly nobody is in the business of trying to sell the lakeshore for development. That's just been a bugaboo people throw around without any factual foundation. Thank you.
The question goes to candidate Plord.
I also agree with preserving the shoreline. I want to see nothing else built between Lakeshore Boulevard and the shoreline. What I would like to see is parks and beaches, and in a controlled way to do that. We have a lot of parks. We have a great park system in the city of Marquette. It's really, really well maintained. I'd like to see some of that area turned into parks for public access as well. So I absolutely support what people are saying as far as the shoreline is concerned. Having said that, the commission, again, is going to have to make some serious decisions on what to do with the property when the Shira steam plant is removed, and what to do with the property with the WE energy plant. Currently, the city does not own the property with We Energy unless they consolidated that $1 buyback. We will own it if we don't own it now. But we need to find out something viable for that property that's going to put money into the city treasury, but also fits with the city structure.
The question goes to candidate Brum.
This is one question I'm kind of glad I was the last one for, because what I want to address to everyone's attention is the development of the former Cliffsdale property needs to be rethunk. I don't know a better word for it. Last year, I went looking for a book on the history of the Cliffsdale Company and couldn't find one in the library or the resource center. So I created a presentation using historically available records and Freedom of Information Act records. That site is heavily contaminated. I'm not speaking with hyperbole. I have the records from the state government. In addition to being contaminated with pyrolignous acid in its various formats, the water, the shoreline where people are going to be laughing and frolicking and playing, has 2 underwater hazards, one of which is a 1,500-foot long closed up water pipe still left in the water, and the other one of which is a hidden underwater breakwall. So all of your plans for development of the lakeshore there are going to run into Lake Cliffsdale was a problem when it was operating, and 60 years later, it's still a problem. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going on to the next question, and this will be going to candidate mayor first. The question is, what do you see as the role of the city commission in protecting the health of residents and visitors to our city in this time of pandemic?
A great question. You know, the city commission has already been doing a lot of work on trying to get appropriate information out to the public on guidelines and protection procedures, and the commission can help foster that, keep good lines of communication open from state and federal agencies, and work with them to promote the kind of guidelines they're handing down to us. When it comes to having maybe 400 or 500 people partying on a beach without masks, obviously that's something the commission shouldn't allow to keep happening. And if it continues to be an issue like we've seen it before, perhaps the public beaches need to be either closed down or there needs to be some sort of enforcement to prevent it from happening. And I know the commission's been talking a lot on this, and they've been working hard on trying to figure out and find solutions for it, and I applaud them for trying. You know, public servants, one of our main jobs is to take care of the health of our constituents. So I applaud them for the efforts that they already are working on.
Thank you. The question goes to candidate Schlegel.
Thank you. This is a really tough one for me because everybody wants to be very aggressive in trying to get things back to normal. And what I really found that we needed to do is, number one, follow our leaders at the state level and follow our leaders at the county level, because those are the ones that are going to be bringing down certain issues to us and how we need to take those out to the general public and police those as they get incorporated into our daily life. It's a very difficult time of change, and I think one of the best things that we've been able to do as a commission is to help police, you know, and encourage other people to police our neighbors, because that's, you know, they're coming and talking to us, we're going and talking to them, and we have to just really encourage everybody to abide by the rules that are set forth, that are coming down from our governor, but that are coming down from our health department, and just work together.
Thank you. Question goes to candidate Stonehouse.
This is a difficult one, but yet it's one I think we've done a lot of terrifically effective work on. Working together with our partners, again, at the county, at Northern Michigan University, and at the state, because everything's got to be done according to more of an overarching plan, because we know how the virus can move around. One of the actions the commission took, and I'm going to go back about a month or so, was to pass an ordinance that limited the size of public gatherings. And it radically took the governor's recommendation of 250, and I think we brought it down to 150 or less, maybe 100. I don't recall the number now. But we took that action, and that was part of a follow-on action to what had happened on the 4th of July. We also turned around with a new policing plan for the beaches that put the police out on the beaches very, very frequently. And every week, every commission meeting, or rather every week, we get a data feed via the city that tells us how many people were stopped, checked, arrested, driven away to keep the crowds on the beach down to a manageable level. So I think the commission has been extraordinarily ambitious. Thank you.
Thank you. The question goes to candidate Plord.
Well, this is a great question to illustrate what the commission, what a city commissioner has to go through and deal with. This is a subject, of course, that can cause a lot of controversy. As been mentioned, a lot of people want things to get, quote, back to normal, whatever that may be. And we've had some issues in the city of Marquette, and we have to be cognizant that the coronavirus is a serious problem. And no matter what you do, you're going to make somebody angry. Okay, I think one of the roles of the city of a city commissioner is to be a leader. You've got to be able to express what you did and why you did it to people, especially the people who may be angry with you. You've got to be strong enough to stay the course on what you're doing. Some of the things that have been done already are what needed to be done. But again, they're controversial, and you can't allow that to bother you or change what you know is right. You have to do what's right. And another part of the question that's very, very important is protection. That's the point, protecting residents and protecting visitors to the city of Marquette. We know that Marquette is a tourist place. It thrives on tourism. We had a lot of tourism this year, but we have to protect our tourists to make sure that they come back. So you got to be strong, you got to stay the course, and you have to do what you have to do.
Thank you. Question goes to candidate Brum.
Candidate Brum's point of view is this: to protect against COVID-19, the number one thing is you wear a mask in public, you wash your hands frequently, and you use hand sanitizer when you can't use soap and water. The City Commission should encourage every business and place of gathering to have those materials available for everybody who enters. And if a person refuses to wear a mask, they simply have to be excused. And I'm pleased to report that there are businesses in town that have that level of strictness. In terms of the public gathering, one of the points that I've raised frequently is that the city would do well to form a volunteer citizens park patrol. And this would free up our police for doing policing, where you could have people in little vests with cell phones letting people know what the rules are for that particular area, including the use of masks and hand sanitizers and not gathering together with unmasked crowds. This would be a cost-efficient way of getting the message out, because the message is going to be with us for a long time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The question goes to candidate Hanley.
Thank you. As the city, as done already, I would like to say that I do think that the City Commission has done a great job. There was the hiccup on the 4th of July, and they've done a great job since then of limiting the large groups. Running a restaurant right now has been challenging, and people try constantly to wear no masks. We stand by the firm thing. If you would like to not wear a mask, we'd be happy to get you your meal in your car. We have masks available for anyone who doesn't have one. And it's a rule that we stand very firmly with, because it is the rule that's given to us. My favorite line is, I didn't make the rule, but I'm following them and we're enforcing them. And we believe in them. And that's what we have to do as city commissioners, is we may not make all the rules, we need to follow them, go with what the state guidelines are showing us they're working. It's when we start straying from them that we start having large groups, like up in Houghton, they're having the problem with tech, having a lot of students getting together because they're kids and they want to, but it's showing exactly what can happen and how much trouble can happen very quickly because of it.
Thank you. We'll go on to the next question then, and this question will go first to candidate Schlegel. How should the City Commission address homelessness and the lack of affordable housing?
Yeah. This is a huge question that's about an hour long, just on one of those topics. We've got a homeless task force that I'm lucky enough to sit on, and I have to say that it's doing amazing things already, even though we've been interrupted by COVID. We've been able to, I was one of those guys that was part of the stigma. I didn't think that people were working hard enough to get out of those situations, and I was completely wrong. And I apologize for that. And I've seen people that are down on their luck, people that are just been having a tough time, and they're busting their butts to get out, and we're working hard to get them back into society as a functioning, with their family and everything else. The problem is we don't have enough housing for them, and we can't be shipping them off to K.I. Sawyer or to Negaunee or to any other community unless we have an effective transit system. And that's just driving me crazy, because we've given all these opportunities. They're working hard, and then they don't have access to the basic daily needs that they have because our transit is not effectively run.
Thank you. The question goes to candidate Stonehouse.
I will echo candidate Schlegel. This is a question that has an awful lot in it. I can say very simply, however, looking at the affordability issues some time ago, maybe 6 months ago, the City Commission appointed a committee to look at the issue of affordable housing. It's being chaired by Commissioner Bonzell, and we are expecting a report back hopefully in January. So that will give us some recommendations and some guidance on how we can move from there. I would make a point, though, that the LDC will be having a work session with them this coming, I think, the 19th of October, and they will be presenting changes to the LDC that largely will be dealing with affordability issues, affordable housing, and what we can do within the LDC to continue to change it and modify it to make that opportunity greater. We already have changed it significantly to allow duplex construction. We've changed it to allow additional houses on a given size lot. So within the LDC, those steps are being taken. And the only situation will be how well we can move through them rapidly. Thank you.
Thank you. The question goes to candidate Plord.
I think we all recognize the need for affordable housing, and the question about how we do that is, again, a huge question. The City Commission, as Commissioner Stonehouse just mentioned and Commissioner Schlegel just mentioned, is already tackling that issue. One of the things I would like to do as a city commissioner is get other cities involved when you talk about the homeless, because I don't see much happening for the homeless in Negaunee, much happening for the homeless in Gwynn. I don't see much happening for the homeless in Ishpeming, Munising, all the surrounding areas, all the way to Escanaba, even to Houghton. In fact, there's a dirty rumor that those cities kind of send their homeless to us, to the city of Marquette, because we have the facilities. They need to get involved. They need to help out. They need to provide places in their cities also for homeless people, so that all the homeless people that are in the central UP don't converge on the city of Marquette. I think that's one big part of the issue.
Okay, thank you. The question goes to candidate Brum.
Candidate Brum, in the last year, has started to associate my giving the time with the Jansen Hotel. And I think we forget in our quest to come up with new solutions, the existing providers that keep people off the street and give them a place to stay and some place to try to get their life back in order. And I've been very impressed with the Jansen House. I've been very impressed with the practicality of their request for donations. When we went there before Christmas, they said, please come back at the end of January. That's when the donations from Christmas dry up. And that's when we can tell you what we really need. And so we ended up, my mother and I ended up giving them a donation to buy construction materials. They also ran a successful beverage can drive to replace their refrigerators. So I look forward to what the new committee is going to come up with, but I would encourage everyone to donate to the local facilities that are doing so much good right now and keeping people off the street. Thank you.
Thank you. The question goes to candidate Hanley.
Thank you. Obviously, the homelessness is a serious issue in our city, and we do have many things working tirelessly to try and solve it. I do think having a permanent homeless shelter somewhere in the city would be a great positive thing, but trying to find the right area for it and the staff for it and the money for it is also going to be a huge thing. We're going to have to get donations. It's not just going to be something that's going to sustain itself, but if it can be a stepping stone to help these people get back on their feet, get back into jobs, because one of the biggest hurdles people face when trying to find a job is you need an address in order to get a job, and giving someone an address or a phone number to contact you at isn't always an option. So trying to help these people to find jobs, the first step is getting them a house to stay in the meantime. On the same note, as everyone knows, affordable housing is a huge issue, and I love what the city is doing already to tackle it, but I think we should take more steps to make things a little bit easier on students to try and find housing, even if that's getting rid of some of the ordinances that step on it. Oh, thank you.
Thanks. The question goes to candidate mayor.
Our homeless situation is something we absolutely need to address. It's inhumane not to, and regardless if they're from a neighboring community or not, the fact they believe in Marquette enough to come here to seek help, I think says a lot about us. I agree that improving a public transit system would assist with, especially in the winter, getting these individuals around, but whether it be a homeless shelter, which I'm not opposed to, or even using something like a homeless shelter as a transitional step to helping these individuals get into the subsidized housing that we have inside the city, I think would be great steps in working towards helping those individuals get out of that situation. As far as affordable housing, as I stated some info earlier about it, but we need to be able to increase the amount of housing density we have, the amount of rentals we have, so that people have a better chance of getting a home and an apartment at a lower price inside city limits. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be going to the next question then, and it will go to candidate Stonehouse first. The question is, what measures should the city take to combat the loss of revenue from the dark store tax loopholes and other former tax sources? Candidate Stonehouse.
Yes, that is a question that usually is addressed to townships, as the townships are getting more of the action than the city is. I'm not aware if we have had a couple in the city of Marquette, but the big damage that's being done with that is to the townships in the state of Michigan, particularly Marquette Township is a poster child. At the meeting on Monday night, we signed, all of the commissioners signed not a proposal, a resolution of support for the action of removing the individual that the governor just appointed back onto the appeals board for dark stores. And that was a real step for us to be able to do that, along with all of the governing boards for Ishpeming, Negaunee, the Wells Township, everybody literally in the county of Marquette. So we took effective action. We'll see where it goes. Thank you.
Thank you. Question goes to candidate Plord.
That's one of the ultimate responsibilities of a city commissioner, and has been for quite a while. How to generate more tax revenue in the city is really the question. As Commissioner Stonehouse mentioned, there's a lot of battling with Lansing about the dark store process. But what do we do here in the city of Marquette? Well, we have an opportunity with the Shira Steam Plant area. We have an opportunity with the We Energy area. We also have an opportunity with the old hospital area. Although the city does not own that area, the city may have an opportunity to take possession of it, but we need to encourage some kind of income generating businesses in two of those areas. I don't want to see anything done in the the Shiras area, but the We Energy area certainly can have a business that generates income. But the old hospital area is a place where affordable housing might be a place to really look at in that neighborhood. And developers developing that so that it can generate income for the city and provide that affordable housing.
Thank you. Question goes to candidate Brum.
Candidate Brum's recommendation is that we turn our lobbyist, the city has a lobbyist, loose in Lansing to make sure all the legislators there realize how much the dark store tax issue is negatively affecting communities, not just the communities in the Upper Peninsula, but communities all over the state, to work on new legislation that would take it out of the courts. The other part of this, it's a two-part paradigm, is to hire an attorney to help out those jurisdictions. I believe Escanaba is embroiled in dark store tax litigation, and to help them out with amicus curiae briefs and other legal techniques to help make the case that this is just plain wrong, and that the taxing of these stores is negative for everybody involved. And this is one of those things where it's nice to say we need new development. We need the law change to stop dark store loopholes, and we need to help the people who are fighting in court to get rid of them. Thank you.
Thank you. The question goes to candidate Hanley.
Thank you. Though this isn't an issue that we can fix as a city commission, it is something that we can help combat. We can send our commissioners down to Lansing to testify in front of the people that are showing it and tell them how hard it is hitting our areas. Maybe not the city particularly as hard as the township, but the township still affects us in quite a few ways. We can also form a coalition with other cities that we have around us and work together to fight it. If you have multiple smaller cities fighting together, our voices are more likely to be heard than just one of us standing there. Now, getting the tax base and tax revenue up, that can be done in a multitude of ways. Obviously, we have only so many properties in the town, but a lot of them, I believe, are tax-free at this point, where we were given breaks for a certain number of years for different things. We need to stop doing that and just get businesses in here without giving these breaks so that we can increase the tax base that way.
Thank you. The question goes to candidate Mayor.
It's a great question. I mean, I personally would be happy to go down and testify to Lansing. And I also think we should encourage our lobbyists to make this a priority on behalf of the commission. You know, just in few years ago, one box store going to the tribunal and getting the status is the reason why our public library is now only open 6 days a week instead of 7. And that's just from one of these stores. We can increase the local tax base and try to fight against this ourselves by supporting small businesses and startup creation, by increasing the amount of housing units and therefore the amount of tax base we can generate, as well as strategic developments like the old hospital site as well. There's a lot of things we can do, and I think everything I just said are things we should absolutely explore, if not vigorously attempt to do, because the city budget, I mean, it needs to be realistically, it is a priority as well moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Question goes to candidate Schlegel.
Thank you. This is it's kind of ironic that we did sign that resolution on Monday night. And if you go back and you watch the video, you'll see that one of the comments, particularly for me, was that we need to stand on the rooftop at the bridge and yell down to Lansing as a unified group to let them know that we stand united up here and we want to see this dark store issue addressed. Don't just, treat us like we're the one that stole your cookie and ask us to go away just because we're so far away from you up here in the UP. It drives me crazy. We need to lean on our representatives and our congressmen and women, because they are the ones down there. They're our voice, and they're doing a great job. They're doing their best, but they've got to get a hold of some hands downstate and start raising them together, united, in order for us to make a difference in where this is headed. It's a tough one as a city commissioner to think that I can make a difference, but you're darn right. If it comes to going down there and saying our piece, then we need to do that.
Thank you. We're going on to the next question then, and this question will first go to candidate Plord. Question is, what can the city of Marquette do to reduce the effects of climate change?
Another great question, and a question that I faced several times when I was on the city commission previously. I think the city of Marquette is doing a great job already with addressing issues of climate change. Certainly we can plant more trees. Certainly we're protecting the lakeshore. We're looking at how things are built, how things take place in the city, trying to cut down on our emissions, our carbon footprint wherever we can. And I know that the city itself, Public Works, and all the areas of the city are making every effort to reduce that carbon footprint as much as possible. One of the things that we've done already, though, is, and one of the reasons why the Shire Steam Plant is no longer viable is because the city of Marquette built the Energy Center on Wright Street, which has cut down pollution tremendously. I was not able to vote on that, but I supported it 100%. It was the last vote that was taken before I was appointed or elected to the commission back in 2015. But I support everything that the Marquette Energy Center stands for, and it's a great, great example.
Thank you. Question goes to candidate Brum.
Many aspects of climate change. I'm going to start with where I got this question the last time we all got together. Planting more trees is scientifically, biologically, and weather-wise the #1 way you can even out the effects of climate change. Planting more trees provides for more cleanup of air pollution. It also provides for anchoring of soil that could come loose and cost us the shoreline. It also provides habitat for creatures that help to balance out the ecology of a certain area. There should be a rider attached to every development project that for every tree removed, 2 trees have to be planted within the city limits. And I appreciate that the Land Development Code went back and forth about the size and shape of the trees. I'm not concerned about that. I'm concerned about you take down a tree, you put up a new tree. We also have to increase our emphasis on no littering within the city. The litter ends up in the stormwater, which ends up in the lake, which ends up as a problem. And therefore, those 2 things, plant more trees and eliminate littering, will do the most. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The question goes to candidate Hanley.
Thank you. Climate change is a danger everywhere. We've made a lot of progress here with shutting down the coal-operated plant, and we have renewable energy sources. We do have the small, but still there. But we do have some renewable energy sources. We need to do more. We need to set an emission standard for the city that we're at, find out what our emission standard is now, and be reducing it by a certain percentage. Grand Rapids did it, and they were able to reduce their emissions percentage by 23%. They're a larger city than us, so there is more to do, but I think we can still do something, and we need to be. We can also do simple things like planting trees, and as we buy new city vehicles, be purchasing alternative fuel source vehicles, so we're not just purchasing the average one. Little things can go a long way when trying to combat climate change.
Thank you. The question goes to candidate Mayor.
Thank you. You know, the commission has in recent years done a lot of things to help in this aspect, you know, shutting down the plant, you know, implementing a plan to prevent lakeshore erosion. And I think we could work on several other issues well to keep this moving, whether it be working with Board and Light and Power to increase alternative energy uses in the city, but also, you know, curbside glass pickup could be another great thing. We have a recycling center now at Single Stream. A lot of residents are still unsure how this works. Maybe helping increase the amount of visibility and getting out the word more with that as well could help increase the amount of recycling we're having within inside the city limits. Any sort of plan, as like stated, putting the lakeshore itself into a conservation easement, as well as part of the Heartwood property, putting that into a conservation easement, I think are all positive steps taking to help protect our local environment. Thank you.
The question goes to candidate Schlegel.
Thank you. You know, we need to prepare ourselves, whether it's the Board of Light and Power, to receive energy from solar. We need to be able to go ahead and you know, be able to kick back into the system if we're generating enough wattage to be able to do that. And I know that that's you know, on the cusp, and that we're heading in the right direction there. But quite honestly, you know, solar for me is the ticket. Wind is a little bit further off. But I really want you guys to think about as efficiencies, the small stuff. Go back and say, how can we look at our house and make it more efficient, whether we're putting in high efficiency toilets, higher efficiency appliances, things along those lines, insulation, things like that are going to make us that much more energy efficient. But you know, it's right now, until we start to see something major come from solar, it's all the small things that'll going to add up that are going to give us a great start to lowering our carbon footprint.
Thank you. We're going to pause for a second. Oh, there he is.
Sorry about that. I got fat fingers.
We could hear you, and you got recorded. Your voice got recorded. So, okay. The question then goes to candidate Stonehouse.
Thank you. You know, climate change is one of those topics that gets lost in the wash. We want it, we know it's good, but we often miss the good things that are happening already. Does anybody realize that a year ago, an article on the city of Marquette and what we had been doing with climate change was posted to the United Nations Climate Control Task Force website and had been there for 6 months? And the article was telling and explaining how much Marquette had already done. That's how arguably good, or the progress that the city is certainly making. For example, glass is going to start next month. Just for your curiosity, it'll be a curbside pickup on that. But the methane generators that are out at the wastewater treatment plant, obviously saving the methane from going into the atmosphere, critically important, saving the generation of electricity being used right at the plant. Stormwater projects, we just finished with one at Hawley Street. Again, these things are going on that we often lose sight of because they're not big, they're not flashy, they don't get the public attention they should be getting. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be going to the next question then, and this question will first be going to candidate Brum. The question is, in the light of the fact that some 25% of Marquette's population is below the poverty line, what can the City Commission do to bring jobs to the city which provide wages and benefits adequate to support families? Candidate Brum.
The City Commission could direct the people who are doing our advertising in tourist magazines to come up and have a good time, to take 3/4 of that advertising budget and put it into magazines and online forums to encourage entrepreneurs and small businesses and tech companies to relocate to the Marquette area for all sorts of reasons, including location, workforce, energy supplies, accessibility, and the fact that they'd be more than welcome here to build small to medium-sized businesses. The city, as candidate Stonehouse pointed out, is already doing a great deal with that regard in respect of the support to the Invented NMU and the Smart Zone initiative, which is trying to get people to stay here with good ideas. But I think we've got the message out very well about how great it is to live up here and play up here. I think we need to get the message out much better that it's great to work up here and we need more businesses to locate here. Thank you.
Thank you. The question goes to candidate Hanley.
Thank you. I think too many times we focus on trying to bring a very big corporation, which is unlikely to happen up here. We need to focus on getting those small businesses, and then we need to focus on how to help the small businesses that we get here. If we can get 10 businesses that have 100 people or 50 people employed and help focus on getting them the aid that they need to succeed, we can get the economic stability that we need in the area for people. There are jobs out there. Everyone who has a business right now knows trying to get someone to work is very hard, but that's because trying to pay a full wage and get someone the amount that they need to survive on is also very hard to do right now. We need to find ways to help get the cost of living down in the city so that not only can the small businesses pay a wage that gives them a living wage, but people can still live here in the city at the wages that they're getting. Thank you.
Thank you. The question goes to candidate Mayor.
So if you go a year or two back, I was probably my wife and I were probably a part of the statistic of the 25% in poverty. I know it firsthand. You know, there are a lot of things we could be doing. For example, in commercial districts, we could be increasing the height restrictions that we currently have in place to allow for larger office space and job creators to come in and settle in the city. We also need a housing market capable of sustaining and supporting that kind of influx of a job market. We also could work with, you know, the middle college program through NMU, supporting apprenticeships and using local labor on development projects that we're doing here in the city. All of these things would be great ways to retain youth, working class families, and increase the amount of good paying jobs in the community. And I would just say one more thing with that is helping with the startup creation of small businesses in the city is another great aspect. We have a lot of young and bright minds here that would love to stay here. We need to figure out ways to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. The question goes to candidate Schlegel.
Thank you. You know, I have to go and look at a couple of different areas for this. You know, economic development is driven by, you know, the community itself, by the people that are selling it. And I really feel that we need to sell our Youpers. You know, there's so many times where our Youpers are taking care of Youpers, and this is another one that we need to kind of throw on that pile, because we need to showcase what we have up here to potential businesses, whether it be manufacturing or small business, so that that they know that when they come here, they're going to have a reliable workforce that's going to be able to help them through through all of their challenges. So, that's a big one for me. I really want to see us showcase our people up here. But again, we need to be concerned about affordable housing in that respect, and that means to me, maybe we look at setback housing or some tiny home operations, things along those lines that people are really gravitating towards nowadays.
Thank you. Question goes to candidate Stonehouse.
Like candidate Hanley said, economic development comes in all sizes. We've got Duke LifePoint, a $300 million hospital, and really one of the major employers, the major employer in the county, and in fact in the Upper Peninsula, and yet also a small shop that we can have on 3rd Street or small business. So we've got to concentrate on all that, and we certainly do that. But I would point out that Norcross Corporation announced today that they will be relocating to Marquette to have a better relationship with Northern and a cybersecurity program. So there's a high-tech business that's coming in right now today. These things are happening all of the time. We don't always see them. It gets lost in the wash of the news. The City Commission in a couple of months will be doing a work session dealing with economic development so the commissioners can all become more intelligent and more trained and more knowledgeable about what tools are in the toolbox and what we can and cannot do as a city to play in that field. Thank you.
The question goes to candidate Plord.
I'm a huge proponent of training. We have some entities that provide a lot of training, and I think the city can go a little farther in publicizing those entities. Northern Michigan University, for example, does a great job in many, many different job areas and providing training. I'm a graduate of Northern Michigan University myself, and the city has a great relationship with NMU, but we can do a little more, we can do a little better at publicizing what NMU has to offer and encouraging people to come here to see what the city is about. The local trade unions have built a big training facility up on the highway. So they're working with training as well. But there are some gaps. And when you look at restaurants, Commissioner Hanley runs a restaurant. Perhaps we could offer some training in waiting tables, wait staff and service and how to run restaurants. There's some gaps in training that the City Commission can encourage other entities and businesses to come to the Marquette area and provide some of that training. So when people realize what it is they want to pursue, we can help them pursue that.
Thank you. We'll go on to the next question, and this question will be going to candidate Hanley first. The question is, what are the infrastructure needs in the city, and how would you like to see them addressed? Candidate Hanley.
Well, there are a lot of infrastructure needs in the city, obviously, but a lot of them have been being addressed quite well by the city as we've gone forward. I know that a few years ago we saw in Houghton that their infrastructure was severely lacking in Houghton and Hancock when they had the huge Father's Day floods. A lot of their storm drains weren't there. And I really think that we need to make sure that we are keeping up with checking on all of the drain systems in the area. We are close to the lake, so we're good in there, but we want to make sure that we don't have an issue such as that. We also need to make sure one of the biggest things we need to increase is broadband internet in the area. I don't know if it's considered infrastructure now outright, but it should be as far as I'm concerned. It is a lack up here. There's a lot of surrounding areas, even getting into Ishpeming and Negaunee, where you can't get access to those. And more, especially in today's COVID age, internet is an extremely important part of how we create our contact with the outside world and how students are doing classes. So we have to make sure that we have access to that across the Upper Peninsula and in the city of Marquette especially.
Thank you. The question goes to candidate Mayor.
Yeah, I actually was activated in National Guard to go over to Houghton after those floods, and it was rather apparent where the infrastructure aspect, the damage that could happen from just a flood if it was not done properly, it wasn't updated enough. So I completely agree with candidate Hanley on mentioning that. I think that's an important aspect. So seeing it firsthand, the devastation that could happen from that. I would also note that I think the partnering with NMU to increase the amount of internet infrastructure we have is a fantastic idea that we should do. Some other municipalities have done this and they've had a lot of success, and it's usually cheaper for residents than typical internet providers. We also have aspects of our water system that are very out of date. I know Commissioner candidate Stonehouse has spoken about this aspect before. Updating that so people have clean, drinking water that they know is safe and is reliable is another important thing we need to do. It's a basic fundamental task of a city to do. Thank you.
Thank you. The question goes to candidate Schlegel.
Thank you. First of all, I really want to jump on board with the internet. That's also a major component of our economic development. We're not going to get anywhere with recruiting people to come onto our community if we don't have a solid internet information technology, all of that stuff at their fingertips. They're not going to want to come here. On the other side of the infrastructure thing, the one that I think of primarily is the roads. You know, we got to bond properly. We got to spend and we got to pay off. But we have to do certain aspects. We have to stay on top of our roads, on top of our infrastructure, so that we can make sure that we're not going to have a lacking system years down the line. Unfortunately, a few years back, from the previous administration, I think that they really took several years off of major infrastructure improvements, and that's costing us now. And we're fortunately being able to catch up with that with our current administration.
Question goes to candidate Stonehouse.
Boy, my pride and joy. We're right down to the bottom line of what governments do in the city. We have water pipes out there that are 100 years old, and we are replacing as many as we can every year. The same thing from the sewer and wastewater side. We limit ourselves to about $5 million a year because that's what we spend on a bond. In other words, we retire a bond at $5 million. We then will rebond for another $5 to do whatever road is or construction work is set for that summer. But all of that is determined by a master priority list of addressing for the worst first and then working your way forward. But as Commissioner Schlager said, about 20 years ago, there were a series of commissions that stopped doing this. They just stopped doing the heavy infrastructure work, and we're paying for that now. We're trying to play catch up, so that becomes a significant difficulty for us. But I will challenge a little bit what Commissioner Meyer said. We don't have any unsafe water anywhere. Believe me, we work too hard to do that. What you get out of the water system is good water. Thank you.
Thank you. The question goes to candidate Plord.
This is an issue, as candidate Stonehouse mentioned, this gets down to the nitty-gritty of city government, and this is an issue that can provide a lot of controversy. And this is where you really, really need to stay the course of the decisions that you make. And by that I mean, the city, for example, has raised water rates recently to pay for water infrastructure. The reason why they did it, they did a great job, a professional job of having everything looked at. Consultants come in, and the consultants made the recommendations. But it's tough on some people. The way we raise water rates is hard on some people. But if you want to have the infrastructure, candidate Hanley, candidate Meyer, absolutely correct. I was in Houghton over the Father's Day flood, and I know exactly what went on there as well. Also, I'm familiar with Mr. Wara, who was the city manager in Houghton, and talked about a lot of things. We need to do what we need to do, and it does cost money. Candidate Stonehouse was talking about the capital improvement plan that you can find on the city website to research where the money is going to be spent this year and next year. Thank you.
Thank you. The question goes to candidate Brum.
Well, candidate Brum is a chemical engineer, and I'm here to tell you that the city of Marquette is working harder than you can imagine at getting its pipes into current standards. The big issue in Marquette is something called Orangeburg pipe, which was never designed to go underground. It was designed for electrical conduits and buildings. And after World War II, when building materials were in scarce supply, it was approved for underground pipes. And in fact, most of the pipes in Shiras Hills are currently Orangeburg. And as the city goes through their lists of priorities, they send a team out to scan the pipes, and they look for Orangeburg, and they look for crushed Orangeburg or Orangeburg pipe that's been ripped apart by trees. And that helps determine the priority list. And the fact is, nobody wants to pay for it, but you can't have a viable city without sewage treatment, water treatment, and stormwater treatment. And I'm proud to report, this is my experience on the Wastewater Advisory Board, Marquette is in the top echelon of wastewater treatment and the other treatments in the state and in the nation. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to go on to our next question, which is also the last question. And this will be going first to candidate Mayor. The question is, Are the current ordinances fair and sufficient to regulate internet-based rentals such as Airbnb and VBRO? If not, what do you suggest? Candidate Mayor?
That's an interesting question. Obviously, having a larger tourism base and having the ability to have tourists here is great for our local economy. It's an interesting topic given with COVID-19, whether or not we should be able to allow these to continue to operate. I think that if we're not having a lot of issues with it, then it's not something we need to be super concerned of. As far as right now with COVID, if there are travel restrictions set in place by the state, then yeah, we would need to enforce those. But if there's a way we can encourage more tourism and bring those individuals here, that is awesome. With that being said, though, that also can have the potential of decreasing the amount of available housing we have. So that's kind of a balance. We need to figure out how much of those we would want to allow for and how to kind of justify a data-driven solution for making that decision.
Thank you. The question goes to candidate Schlegel.
Thank you. I was on the Planning Commission when this whole thing came through, and I'm glad that my fingerprints are on it because along with many of the deals that we had to, heavy lifting that we had to do on the Planning Commission, this one was very difficult. What we did is we put a cap at 250 on it. We've monitored. We've been monitored through our online monitoring service that we have that the city has paid into. We have had very little negative feedback from the community, other than the fact that it would be nice to have a few more houses available for our own people. So, you know, that's the biggest concern. That's why we put a cap on it. And I will say that the state, our lobbyists are downstate, hammering away right now using our model as a model to push other communities towards, because there are communities that are way out of control, and their housing, the people that are renting them are out of control, and we've got a very, very well thought out, very well done plan for the room, or for the turbos. Excuse me.
Thank you. The question goes to candidate Stonehouse.
Interesting question, interesting hot button. We limit it by ordinance to 250. That's it for the city. And that is considered to be adequate. If you're a realtor, you want more. You want as many as you can get, because you can sell a home as long as it's got an Airbnb attached to it of some kind. But the downside of that, of course, is that you lose the soul of the city, because you're no longer having homes that are occupied by real tenants. You're having homes that are occupied by transients. So who lives in Marquette? Who's a Marquette resident? Who cares about the city if you're going through these things like they're nothing but big hotel rooms? So that's the real downside. The other downside was identified by candidate mayor when he talked about how it squeezes affordability of housing, because every house you have that's an Airbnb is not available for affordable housing conversion. So you're killing yourself when you add more. The city is a balancing act. And I don't know what's up or down or right or wrong, but it's a difficult problem to try and solve. Thank you.
The question goes to candidate Plord.
I think our ordinances currently are quite sufficient. I was on the commission when candidate Schlegel was on the Planning Commission. We're hammering this out, and he's absolutely right. The human hours and blood, sweat, and tears that went into this was huge. We had several meetings. We had meetings at Lakeview Arena. We had meetings in other areas. And things have been going pretty smooth. The fire department has the responsibility of inspecting these areas. The city has responsibility for licensing these areas, collecting the fees. The police department, of course, monitors safety in these areas. And as candidate Stonehouse mentioned, and candidate Schlegel has mentioned, there's very, very little, if any, complaints with Airbnb. I also agree, though, that yes, you can have too many. I agreed with the ordinance as it was written. I think 250 is quite sufficient. I would not support expanding that number at all. But the current ordinances are in good shape, and they're doing what they need to be doing for the city.
Thank you. Question goes to candidate Brum.
My perspective on having short-term rental situations scattered throughout the city is this. If you have too many of them, it destroys the neighborhood and turns it into a parking lot for hotel guests that come and go, that don't know the rules, don't know the speed limits, don't care about litter because they're not the ones picking it up. So there is a constant need to monitor and inform people. Going back to my, let's get a volunteer park patrol, let's get a volunteer neighborhood patrol as well, letting people know what's expected of them. I also agree that 250 sounds like a lot. I was at a commission meeting where several landlords were fussing through the roof that they could make more money if they could get inspected, but the 250 was the limit. I also was at a meeting where the chief of the fire department had to hire a full-time inspector. So there's a cost to the city of having all this Airbnb. If they want to do more than 250, let's put a tax on Airbnb so we can use that money to support the city services that are required. Thank you very much.
The question goes to candidate Hanley.
Hey there. This is actually a great issue. I agree that our ordinance is very good. I do think that the 250 is limiting, and not in the way that it's not enough. I know personally of 5 people who purchased their Airbnb license simply so that there could not be another one near them, which I know a lot of people did, which limited the amount that did it, which, I mean, it's a way to do it. I know that a lot of cities in Ann Arbor, they're looking at limiting the complete use of actual single-use Airbnbs. You cannot have one that is only an Airbnb. You have to actually live there, which is what Airbnb started as, renting a room in your house to someone, renting the basement to someone sometimes. And that's the way that Ann Arbor is combating the same issue that we're reaching out with. Also, they're putting on the lodging tax that they do on other housing or on other lodging like hotels and things like that, the extra tax you get at campgrounds, which would be an option that we could look at too. But as I agree, I think the ordinance as written is working and it's going well in the city.
Thank you. We have come to the final minutes of the Marquette City Commission Candidate Forum. Each of our candidates will now have 2 minutes to make a closing statement. Candidate Schlegel, you now have the floor for 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. League of Women Voters, this has been a pleasure, and I want you to know that I've utilized this forum the last several years to make my decisions when it comes to who I was going to vote for, or at least solidify my decisions. It's no secret why we're all on this quest together. We all love this community. We all love everything that it stands for, from the lake to the universities to the parks to, you name it. We're here because we love this community, and it's not just Marquette; it's the surrounding communities as well. So, that's something that we have to recognize. It's a full package. It's been a pleasure and an honor to be a part of, the many things that I've done over the years, whether it's on the Planning Commission, being a part of a master plan revision or a land development code revision, or countless other, things that take many hours that nobody even imagines. But to have that grassroots understanding of what it takes to get a community rolling like this, and then stand back and kind of fold your arms and go, man, this is, we're in God's country here and we're doing it right. So it's really a pleasure to be a part of this process. And I hope to continue to be a part of the process for at least another 3 years, maybe even another term after that. We'll see what happens. But, for me, I look forward to working with whoever would be a part of the commission. And if I don't make it, I'll tell you where I'll be. I'll be down the advisory role again, doing another volunteer time down there. So please consider me as a candidate for your vote, and I would love to be, and be honored to work for you. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Candidate Stonehouse, you now have the floor for 2 minutes.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters, because having a forum like this is just so critically important. It is so vital that the people who are going to vote and make a decision on what candidate to support have some basis on which to make that. And this type of a forum is just great. I wish it were longer, because there's so much to discuss. There's so many things that we just have to go over so quickly that those details are critical and they're often lost. I would reiterate that my record of public service is an open book. I'm a Northern graduate, U.S. Army retired Corps of Engineer officer, 9 years on the commission, one as mayor, a couple as pro tem. So what you have there is somebody with a lot of experience in doing what we're doing and institutional knowledge of what we have and how all the systems come together. And most importantly, I can be trusted to do the job fairly and to make the best decisions I can for everybody. I do not represent a constituency. I do not represent a particular group of people, but I've always been characterized by trying to do my best for everybody. But I do want to point out that I am endorsed by the UP Regional Federation of Labor, AFL-CIO, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that because that's the group that works in the background of Marquette, very often doing the jobs, putting the packages together, and more importantly right now, training the workers of the future in some very high and very technical skills. And we don't want those folks to be lost from our community. We want them to be here because remember, the great export from the Upper Peninsula has always been two things, rocks and wood. And the third one was our children who could not find a job anywhere in the Marquette area or in the Upper Peninsula. And that's something that we don't ever want to have again. We want to get away from that. We want to get those jobs here, those economic opportunities that keeps our children here if they wish to be here in our community. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you. Candidate Fleur, you now have the floor for 2 minutes.
Thank you. I also want to thank the League of Women Voters for putting on this this candidate forum. It's an opportunity for people to really hear what we say and what we think. And like candidate Schlegel mentioned, I found out a lot about what people think as candidates. And once again, I find myself among a very intelligent group. I think we're very privileged to have this group of candidates who really do want to be, as candidate Schlegel mentioned, city commissioners to help the city. Have the best interests of the city and all the citizens at heart. I'm one of those people. I do have experience on the city commission. You can look up my record as well. There are a lot of things that I supported that the city has implemented that worked out well. I did take a lot of heat. I did support the roundabouts, and I'm still taking some heat from some people who still don't like the roundabouts, but I think that was a good decision. It saved the city a lot of money. I was also part of the decision to bring in Johnson Controls when we talked about infrastructure a little while earlier. Johnson Controls was a great deal for the city of Marquette to replace a lot of electrical infrastructure that we needed. I supported that. I didn't get a chance to vote on the hospital, but I supported the hospital. And as I mentioned, I didn't get a chance to vote on the energy center that was built on Wright Street, but I supported that and everything else that went along with it when I was on the commission from 2015 to 2018. I also want to let people know that I am a friend of the No Cayman and Trail Network. I think that's a great gem for the whole area. And I'm definitely a friend and supporter of that. I'm a supporter of the Peter White Public Library and especially the Arts and Culture Center. And I think one thing that people are finding out, and I've worked very hard with this even when I wasn't on the commission, we have a very vibrant arts and culture community here in the city of Marquette. And I've worked very hard to help promote that. I am asking for your vote. Along with me as well, it would be an honor to serve you. I'd love to serve you again. It would be a full-time job with me, and I can hit the ground running. I already know how it works.
Thank you. Candidate Brum, you now have the floor for 2 minutes.
I have 3 thank yous to start with. Thank you to the League of Women Voters. This is just an excellent program for voters to spend the time getting to meet the candidates, to see them and hear them side by side, a Zoom screen or in person. It's a really, really productive exercise. I want to thank the UP Regional Labor Federation for providing me their endorsement this year. I've been working since I was 15 years old. I'm a former member of Local 4950, the United Steelworkers of America, and it was an honor to seek and receive their endorsement this year. And I want to thank everybody who's watched this video, wherever you are or however you are done it, because this investment in time and effort makes you an informed voter. And those are the type of people who will make the best decisions. As to why anyone should vote for me is that I've proven in the last years my involvement with the city is not a casual situation. In addition to my work on the 2 city committees, I also spearheaded the beach wheelchair project, first for a friend. After we demonstrated that the beach wheelchair was a viable piece of recreational equipment, a group of people and myself raised the money to donate a beach wheelchair to the city of Marquette. Fortunately, it couldn't be deployed this year, what with COVID, but it's still there, it's still safe, and it will be used again. And in the years 2019, we should have recreational equipment for handicapped personnel. I've also worked very hard on increasing the level of knowledge of the city of Marquette residents for the Cliff-style property. If you didn't grow up in Marquette like I did, you didn't smell Cliff-style, you didn't understand why there's still a lot of concerns over what's in that ground and underneath the water. And I'm part of that. I also did a bike safety program throughout the county, which I'm very proud of as well. In conclusion, my family came to this town 96 years ago. There's been generations of Brums ever since. I come from a long line of public servants of the city. I wish to continue their good work. And I promise when you vote for me, you will get somebody who shows up on time prepared. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Hanley, you now have the floor for 2 minutes.
All right, thank you. I would also like to thank the League of Women Voters. I can say honestly that just listening to the fellow people running for the commission, I've learned a lot, things that I didn't even know were views that I didn't think before. So I can always appreciate getting one of these forums out there so everyone can see the different views that people have. I want to be a city commissioner because I want to try and make a difference in the city. I grew up coming down to Marquette to visit my Uncle Louis, Monsignor Capo, who did a lot of work for the city and loved this city. And he taught me that if you wanted the city to be what it could be, you had to be willing to put the work in to make it the best that it could be. I have years of experience helping to run a small business here in town. I know what the challenges are. I know that coming with COVID, we're going to face a lot of challenges in the upcoming months of things we don't even know. And we're going to lose businesses, and we have to try and support them as a city commission and support them as a city. I want to try and help build a community benefits ordinance here in Marquette so that we can have a group, or so we can work together with labor and the community and the city commission as we do these land deals and these development deals, especially for the heartland and for different parcels and things like that, so that everyone can feel included. I know a lot of times it seems as though it's not, I know there's always public hearings, but people always feel left out of it. And it's when a community benefit ordinance could really go a long way in making people feel heard when it comes to these large land deals. I would like to thank the UP Regional Labor Federation as well for their endorsement. I grew up in a union household. My father is the president of the local 5024 Steelworkers Union in Lawrence, and I am proud to be from a union household and proud to support union values. As you cast your vote in the upcoming election, I do hope that you think of me. And if you have any questions or any concerns, please feel free to reach out to me. I would love to tell you anything more that I couldn't fit in this forum. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Mayor, you now have the floor for 2 minutes.
I would also like to thank the League of Women Voters for putting this on. I think it's fantastic you're doing this, and I really hope it helps inform voters. In the interest of full transparency, if you want a more comprehensive, in-depth platform, you can just go to my website, codymayer.com, and I have a full, in-depth, comprehensive platform laid out as well that I briefly got to talk about tonight. You know, I come from a union working class family. I grew up in a working class household, and I also believe in the use of community benefit agreements, community benefit ordinances. There could be a fantastic use there to develop cooperation with developers, as well as supporting our local workers and increasing higher paying jobs and apprenticeships. You know, I've served almost 6 years now in the Michigan Army National Guard, and I actually extended for an additional 6. As I stated earlier, I went to Houghton Hancock during Father's Day floods. Both myself, my wife, and my daughter are all members of the Sioux Tribe Chippewa Indians. And it was actually brought to my attention I would be the first member of a federally recognized tribe to ever be elected to the commission. I think given today with the unfortunate racial divides that we have, could be a very positive thing, and it's a representative thing that we don't necessarily have a lot of right now in our local government. That coupled with my bachelor's in public administration from Northern Michigan University, my small business experience, and being the vice chair of the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, I believe the economic challenges we're facing ahead that I would be a great tool set and asset for the city and our residents and how to address that and finding viable solutions. I want to make Marquette a great place to live and work for all of our residents for generations to come. And that we do that by helping our local small business economy, by increasing housing affordability, and by protecting the beautiful environment that we have here in Marquette. And I cannot stress enough supporting our workers. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This concludes our candidate forum for the Marquette City Commission. The League of Women Voters of Marquette County would like to thank you candidates for participating very much. We of the League would like to remind the viewers that if you found this forum informative and you believe that voter participation is not just a spectator sport, please join us. The League of Women Voters is always open to members, any gender. For further information on the upcoming general election, go to our online voter guide at vote411.org, and remember to get out or mail in your vote for November 3rd. Your vote is important. Thank you. Thank you all.